it almost seems like at some point, not designing is going to be a differentiator, like designing your entire brand and having a really great visual identity from the start used to be. It's almost like, yeah, if you launched without all that stuff, it would stand out maybe more than something that's kind of been over designed and totally figured out.
One thing you said that really stuck with me is like, does everything need a brand? Does everything need to be designed? Does everything need to look really polished and slick? And the story you told was around the Hillary Clinton brand. I'd love to hear your thoughts of that again.
There was some kind of discussion around the idea that maybe having this like really consistent though flexible design system, which was beautiful and obviously very well executed, and everyone's you know hearts and minds are in the right place for that. But maybe having that with the political climate, yeah, was just not the right fit for it. Maybe like opening up the brand where it wasn't as consistent and it was less kind of rehearsed or polished would have been a plus in this scenario. And so that to me kind of like applies in a lot of places. Like people come to us and they think they need a design solution, they need a logo or a visual identity and all these aspects, but maybe what they really need is just like a really great kind of strategic brand story. And then from that you can have, like we were talking about previously, like there's lots of conversations that can come through that. Maybe it's more content that's uh, less about the design and the aesthetic part of it and more about that story you're telling. The latest kind of example I can think of that we're kind of in talks about now is related to like the vaccinations and like how do you approach that. If you come to a certain design studio, they're going to have a graphic design solution for it, but maybe that's not what's necessary. Maybe it's more about something that maybe a place like Moniker wouldn't necessarily show off or have as a capabilities on our website, but would be like the best thing for that project. So it's kind of like a loose idea that seems to be coming up more and more as there's more access to design. It almost seems like not designing is going to be a differentiator, like designing your entire brand and having a really great visual identity from the start used to be. It's almost like, yeah, if you launched without all that stuff, it would stand out maybe more than something that's kind of been over designed and totally figured out.
When I was growing up, there were all these sort of subcultures, and the subcultures were often created by people who didn't have access to kind of high end production or high end design. They were just making stuff because they needed to make stuff, and each one was super distinct and super unique. And it feels now a little bit like we live in a time where all of the big Hollywood studios are just looking back. They're all looking Stranger Things, all of it's like Ghostbusters. They're just trying to remake anything from then as opposed to sort of trying to create now. And then you look at things like TikTok and YouTube, and the level of polish in the people who are successful is just so unobtainable to so many
Right.
people that
Mhm.
it feels almost alienating. Like there's no way that, what's his name? Logan Paul, he's got like 5 cameras, each $20,000 plus, and a whole editing team and a whole production team. And that's sort of now what people are measuring themselves against. And it's almost feels like it might be stopping the people who were just sort of creating stuff because they had something to say or just wanted to share something.
On the flip side, there are people who you would never, because they don't have access to that level, like like you said, like the 5 cameras and the producers and that whole team. Because of the platforms, those people can kind of have a voice. Like on, I'm thinking of this guy that I follow on YouTube who I think he's like a classically trained composer who listens to modern music and kind of like talks about it through the lens of fundamental music theory and that kind of thing. But anyway, so there's this guy kind of like sitting. I don't know too much about him, but he's just kind of like sitting in his laptop listening to music and kind of talking about it, and he has an audience. So there is something like with those tools, sort of, in a way democratizing that aspect of it and giving people more of a platform, even if they don't have the means. So I think it's about transparency and how like everyone that we come to and everyone we talk to, they have their brand pillars or brand values, and across the board, human is part of that. And it's there's a conversation about whether you can have that and it's an actual effective differentiator or something that really makes your company unique. But the fact that they all have that, I feel like, shows that people are almost desperately trying to figure out how they can operate in these companies and these brands and still be human and still be accountable and make decisions that are good for their kind of fellow humans. So I do think that's where things are headed, where there's much more transparency already. There's much more accountability with what's happening in social media and the access we have to people in terms of communication in those companies.
Hello YouTube, I'm Ross Drakes, I'm the founder of Nicework, and thank you so much for your time at watching this video. If you're seeing me, it means you made it all the way to the end, so we've at least done something right. If you enjoyed this, we'd love it if you could hit that subscribe button and that thumbs up. It really helps the channel. And I think more important than that is if you know someone who might need to hear this, if you think someone out there who needs this message in their life, please spread the link, because it makes a huge difference to the world and it allows us to fulfill our message of making sure that there are no more bad brands in the world. Thank you very much, and we'll catch you in the next video.